buterefu nkwaniriza nnyo gwe ayakatwegata ku STV era nga njagala kulamusako munnange nti wasuziyo kyolina gy'osinzira okubanga otulaba fenno tukuweereza buterefu okusinzira waneno Kasozi Ebuziga kizimbe kya Sky Complex ku luguudo lwa Lukuli Nanganda. Amanya nze Simon Chris Makanga nkwaniriza ku STV The Sharp Talk mukwano gwammwe nfanfe omukuku na Joseph Tamale Mirundi mutabani wa Mole n'amagana Mirundi yowana wali buterevu okubanga tugenda tunira ensonga bwe zigenda maaso mu ggwanga naye nga njalo kaka olunaku olwali lwakubiri ennaku z'omwezi ziri 5 omwezi ogusooka mwaka 2021 mudoza twasemba okukola kino gwali mwaka gwa 2020 era njogijagala okubaaniriza mu mwaka omupya 2021 tusuubira ebirungi bingi nnyo naye ng'okusingira ddala njagala tudde eri Mungu alusaasire byonna ebitusobyeko ate naawe afunye ebirungi mu mwaka oguwedde still webaze Katonda ku ebyo byakutuusizzaako. STV The Sharp Talk tugenda tunuulira majorly let me say 60% ensonga nga bwe zigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga naddala mu nga tubuzayo ennaku 8 eziri official okubanga Uganda egenda salawo ani anaabeera president w'ensi yattu Uganda gye the power of Africa wamu n'abaka ba parliament saako ne offices endala. Omukuku na Joseph Tamale Mirundi wasizeyo tano muziki webale kunyuma
abasoma tulabika bubi abaana banasoma
bw'oyogera bw'oti abasoma ate abatasoma bw'oti balina kulabika bulungi
ekyo kakati bomba mufaanagana
wateeka okubaawo enjawulo wakati yasoma
n'atasomanayo obyali bulungi. There must be a difference between, otherwise people will lose interest.
Naye nga bitambula bitasaidiyo.
No, you see for me, Mbagamba, if I take my kid to a dentist and hear the kid making noise, I cannot storm the doctor's door because removing the teeth is painful.
I think I must have kusannyalaza.
Mao said, Mao on what DP? Garbage in,
garbage out.
You reap
what you sow. Kituufu. Bwe tunuulira ensonga bwe zigenda maaso mu ggwanga ennaku zino 8 eziri official bifungo gyeko didde nga 14 January. Uganda yeteeseteese okubanga egenda kulonda ani anaabeera president. Tulina ba presidential candidates bali 11 kuliko omukyalo omu. Era butunulira akalu kano ng'oggyeko okuba nti akali scientific nga electoral commission wamu ne ministry ebyobulamu bwe bakalangirira. How different is it from the previous elections?
I was hearing in Uganda this morning as I was coming, saying that the political parties or presidential candidates have a right to announce their results, disputing the role, the supremacy of the Electoral Commission.
Constitutionally, Electoral Commission in a mandate okulangirira akalulu.
Uganda musajja musiraamu ani alangirira omwezi
Mecca.
Director wa Sharia Kampala Mukandi.
Ninga bafuna directive okuva Mecca.
There would be confusion. Olwayinza okujja naga nti why zisina za kusala yidi kangongezeeyo.
Buli omu yandibadde akikola.
Yes, wina amaaso mwezi bagulaba and the Muslims bakugattako n'okugattako nti naawe agulabye kukubira essimu not to create a campaign and confusion. Kakati Nganda musajja yasoma.
Nze Tamale awono tugenda tuukawo katono nnyo ku different political parties abazze neyo enkola. Naye njagala tukubire torch ku njawulo eri kaluka na ka 2021.
Nti ekibalimu okutegeera. Election is a process.
True.
Is like a pregnancy, is like education. Yonna bwegenda kufulumya ebigezo omwana we abadde tasoma kakati bwekukikolebwa kitya abataweerera abaana batatekayo requirements mu musooka ku ssomero. It's a process. Pregnancy mukazi we tomutwalangako ku antenatal clinic tomutwalangako ki ng'ovuma abasawo. Kakati election is a process. The problem ey'omu Uganda, we don't have politicians.
What do we have?
opportunist.
Kukozesa abantu nga maddaala kufuna bye baagala.
A politician,
wow.
There are two types of politicians or political opponents.
One
is an itching opponent. An itching opponent starts elections the day the earlier one is declared. Atandikirawo okukola.
Akudda ku ground. Okay.
Yero bakalangirira. That is an itching opponent. Raila Odinga tabakiriza kwebaka. We don't have an itching opponent in Uganda.
Ever active.
Tebaliwo. These are assignment politicians who just come as scavengers to reap where they never planted.
Okay.
That's one. Two, what type of political parties do we have? We also have assignment political parties which emerge during elections opportunistically. Nitubeerayo, when you look at NRM, revolutionary political parties zine bintu ng'ebyo. One, they don't involve in the politicking all the time. That's why balabanga lutalo. Whenever you have elections, Museveni goes back to Luwero to launch his war. A revolutionary party does not engage in politicking.
Buli tugera mukalu adde Luwero, he launches a war oba addayo kubabuuzaako. Hawone ekintu ky'abantu beebuuza. Sokuleka katono nnyo. Abantu beebuuza nti President Museveni naddala bwe yaddayo Luwero, yaddayo Uganda. Yalazeeyo kwebaza.
Yagamba this is a war. Revolutionary political parties don't engage in politics all the time. They consider it as a war. During ye wotulaba abeeruweero bajja ne balwana. Bwe baamala okulwana ne bagamba nti abaagala amagye muliwa. Many people who fought on Luwero did not want to join the army. Both they were, you have to be recruited into the army. Tewamu bawandiika n'ojja. Waliwo eyali embeera eyamuyingiza amagye nga tagaagala. Second World War. Many of our fathers went back. The Okeros remained in the army. Bo baali bagaagala. Maybe no kubali kulutinga bava mu magye. Kakati the Revolutionary Political Party yo kyekola okulonda bwe kuggwa National Task Force bagijjawo negenda ng'etubbye ne ssente zaffe n'edduka radio tezisasula naki.
Ekomonga emyaka 5 giyuseewo.
Ng'abantu are we going to use ye again?
Secretariat bonabona basirika.
Yes.
Okay.
Kakati ate eno active political party yebeerawo.
Ng'ekola ki?
You can have by-elections. Kyola benali mbagiwangula mu by-election. Kubanga after the elections, dismantling ebintu byayo byonna. Negenda utaluwedde. Kakati mwabadde ku task force muddeyo gye mwava.
Mzee Tamale.
Kuno muddeyo gye mwava.
Elections.
Andi nkubuulira nti very big point. You have a democracy which should need politicians, but you don't have politicians.
So do we have democracy?
A politician is who gets his money survival by doing political work. Politics comes from a Greek word, politicking. You must be active all the time.
What made it dirty? Politics is a dirty game.
Politics is a dirty game depending on the dirtiness of a particular country. Bibakola buli omu abikola. Because we have scientific elections and crude rigging, scientific rigging and crude rigging. Kakati where you don't have ti abaana tebasomye mukazi wo tewamututte ku antenatal clinic, what comes next? Onenya basomesa?
Apana.
Ogenda kunonya wetunonyeza abasomesa ng'abaana bonna baagudde. Wetunonyeza abasawo nti eddwaliro tuliddemu tukuba abasawo ng'abakazi bafuddewo 10 abazaala. If the doctors can explain ti ono yalwayo, they blame you, you take the blame yourself.
True.
Kakati ekyokubiri tiba politicians bawano tebatunuulira kati tubalina tebatunuulira ti is a process. Kakati electoral commission teyina defense. But look, Bannayuganda babasomesa nga bolaba omwana atasoma bitabo n'amanya nti bajja kumubbira. Tabothering.
That it doesn't put in anything.
No. Kakati bo bano bajja ne baliducinga buli kintu to money. They don't bother. Nja kukwata ssente ngula obululu.
Politics nafuuka obwakabaasa.
Kati tebasoma.
tebaddayo ku ground
tebaddayo tebakola ki
olowooza kuno tebikyuse
war produces its generals
labayo muzeeyi Tamale kuno olowooza tebikyuse waliwo generation gyemanyi nti eri desperate for change ku luno babakubyemu torch
for the last 7 years I've been engaged in war nabano bamafia abajoza abavuka abajoga abantu bali tebanemeddwawo
6 years ngoli mu
yes because I'm an activist kakati bo bano opportunist abalowoleza mu ssente ye mwana alowoleza mu kumubbira ebigezo tasoma nti look how do we plan elections in 1980 Obote yabawangula nga n'akalulu tekannaba why etteeka ly'ebyokulonda lyakolebwanga Muwanga yaliwo Muwanga n'alonda akakiiko k'ebyokulonda naye nga tekali vetted by anybody tekali ne bateekamu etteeka mu election gundi ti interparty committee it had no binding resolutions. It was just kutuula butuuzi mwogere. None of the resolutions in 1980 that came from the interparty committee tebyakolebwako. Muwanga goes ahead n'ateekawo kye tuyita gerrymandering. Apache North, Apache East, Apache West, Apache North. Ewaabwe gye banaafuna obululu. 17 UPC MPs went through unopposed. Twalina constituency 26 nga bw'ogatta Busoga ne Buganda where DP expected to get votes zalinga constituency 56. Era Semwogere yeti yalowoozaako n'olunaku n'olumu nti basobola omuwangula. So nga statistically bali abasajja baali bamaze okubala 17 MPs nti yatugamba mu 1980 okuvali ku Constitutional Square n'atugamba nti Dr. Byamugisha lawyer waffe tumaze omulagira agire banalifying akalulu. The whole of West Nile region kuba bali baseeyo abantu abakikosi Maroon Gondi the Ombachi massacre tewaliyo kulonda. UPC nominated the people. There was no voting in West Nile. Two, Gondi etteeka ly'okulonda teryali clear. Tewaliwo presidential, Obote did not stand as a president. Two, tetwali mu parliamentary. When you analyze the statistics of that election 1980, ojja kukisanga nga DP got more votes than UPC. How could Obote come to power? Tetwali mu parliamentary. Obote never wanted to hear the word prime minister. Kyali kimuzaayo. Kakati ebyo byokka byali bimaze okuba DP ekigo. Even going to elections, ebyo byokka byali bimaze okukola ki?
Ogikuba.
But they continued saying, Semwogere last rally mu 1980 yagikuba kubayita ababiri. N'atugamba tusinkane mu State House enkya.
Ng'amanya ayiseemu.
Alinanye airport yajja kulinnya ennyonyi mangu. All of these ones, Muwanga sacked 17 DCs who were supposed to be returning officers on the eve of elections. Ebyo byali bimala. Nti akalubu UPC yali ekoze eki era Muwanga mutunuli ono musajja wa Electoral Commission yabaka yabaka Paulo Muwanga. Ti Paulo Muwanga ye yadentinga okulonda ku Obote. Nti olwokuba a group had demanded at the DP headquarters nabaga nti mu morning nalaba Dr. Semwogerere ne Masiya Singobi bambadde amasuuti malungi accompanied by the British High Commission to Uganda going to Muwanga to get votes. Naye nga mu Kampala Central temwali kulonda.
You have always said Justice Byabakama is denting President Museveni's vote.
Bamukwatirawo. DP used to announce victories tewaliwo mobile phones. Kakati bali wangudde batya.
Buli kyogera lwatu bulinaku nti.
Let us look at this election. Election, Mbabazi yagenda mu court. Mbabazi is a smart guy. Yafuna obululu butono nnyo. Naye Mbabazi kye yakola yagenda mu court n'ateekako brave face. The court ruled and gave you, if I had come with my book, 10 commandments. Baba 10 recommendations. Why 10? The 10 commandments. Ne baba gamba 2 years before the election, this election, implementing them. Never take over minister of Naba Justice, including my friend Otafiri, Bazikolako. And the opposition was watching. Court directed, in fact, The judges were polite. What they said, unless you implement these 10 recommendations, elections in the future will not be fair.
Free and fair.
Yes. Meaning, nti akalulu kano kemuvuddemu Mbabazi yatta akalulu ka Museveni.
Aka 2016.
Abalamuzi baali baga nti kano kabadde kafu naye tetusobola kajjawo. Naye mu future muteekewo bino bibiri.
What are some of those things?
Okitegeera nti boss Bobi Wine was in parliament. Ab'opposition bonna baagala okwesimba kati I hear them talking noise, talking nonsense. Kansala bamuwa batya ennaku entono simanyi ng'atawuli ayina ekitundu kinene. Where were you? Where were you when these laws were being debated?
But I think it's an abnormal campaign,
And
abnormal election.
When do you complain? Nyai complain straight away. This is unfair. Because if you had active politicians, they would be monitoring this weather forecast.
I think to a certain point they were right. Because what nominations is presidential candidates, they were nominated. But no local government members of parliament, they were nominating before. Now, yeah, campaigns, they were given about 65 days.
Nebakugamba nti creating constituencies. Who creates constituencies in Uganda?
It's the parliament.
The Electoral Commission creates constituencies.
Not the parliament?
Depending on a certain ratio that 50,000 people must be represented.
So, is it Electoral Commission or Parliament?
Yes, Electoral Commission. Naye kye baagikolera bano amagezi baategeka okulonda nominations naki after census. Ati kakati Electoral Commission egenda okujja nga census ekoze eki. They would work together. The census would correspond.
How come you when national population census?
You can look for it. Kakati as a result, who created these constituencies? Nankabirwa ngatudde ne kokasi yenale. All of the constituencies, the gerrymandering constituencies, were they created by Electoral Commission?
The 46 of them.
Zebateekawo. Abalamuzi ne baga nti okulonda kwazo kuyita kulinda general election ate ne be contradicting. Who created the constituencies?
Wamate bafuna babaka ba parliament.
N'abaali bagenda okwesimba mu constituencies because they are carving out constituencies, but you have an interest to stand in your constituency. You are not an immigrant that you will go there. It takes me at least 3 years to determine whether you will stand. Kwaba opposition ani ayogera nti who has powers nankabirwa yatuula ne banne olanya n'alaaja na constituency ye bagitememu ne bagaana. Do you know nti constituency za Uganda waliwo ayina eggombolola ebbiri
nebeera constituency?
Oli agenda n'alwana ne bamukutulirako.
Bw'otunula ebizibu byonna bigenda mu maaso mu ggwanga, at one point I am forced to think nti
mwesiga kukoppa
ng'ovudde ne kwekyo muzeyi Tamale tulina constitution erimu amadirisa etali mu madirisa etali mu nzigi etali mu bumuli.
When do you determine nti nja kwesimbawo? Okwera bukezi n'Obama. Is politics for gambling? Is it for gamblers? Politics is not for gamblers.
Anti byayonooneka kati yafuuka politics owakabaasa.
Kakati you're telling me government batugamba political power is influence and advantage. The government has advantage and influence. It can order. The opposition can propose. But you look what the opposition. Bobi Wine was in parliament. You can sympathize with these people who are not in parliament. Did he raise any of those issues? Bano Bobi Wine yalina violence, bano balina ssente.
Katulabanya anaayitawo.
Ati kakati kyenkubuulira, kakati nze elections wezibalira. Even at this time of finishing, I can evaluate. One, kyemuyina wano kakati ebibatta biri ebyo naye ate nga byonna mukuba bbali. One, mitigating against violence. Mitigating against violence. When you look at the history of Uganda, you will find that's why I criticize this professors of psychology. This is what motivated me to take my 2 children to do psychology. Because our educated people, the professors, don't come to guide the society. A professor of psychology, yali badde yatunuulira dda history ya Uganda n'atubuulira when did you have a violent election, what creates violence in the Ugandan society.
Anti kati Martin Luther King Jr. abyogerako n'agamba the world is suffering not because of the violent people but because of the silent of a few people.
Why did we have violence in 62 at the independence? The British would not accept a DP man to take a power. They made sure that elections were rigged in favor of Milton Obote. Era bw'otulya violence ya 1962, Kabaka yekka, a party that was supposed to be led by the Kabaka, committed a lot of atrocities against the Democratic Party. Why? They could only win, force the DPs into submission by violence. I have a summary which was made by Parliament in 1966, summarizing the violence Kabaka Yeka was meting out to UPC and the DP, because UPC had gone out of the alliance by 1964. Creating arrangement yali egamba nti under the alliance Buganda would be a preserve of Kabaka Yeka. Then the people like Pamuru Muwanga, the Baganda said, if we leave Buganda to Kabaka Yeka, are we going to remain nominated members in order to come to Parliament? They opposed the Obote. The Baganda UPC Buganda to Jitadeu to compete with the men. Gendo Rabe Samad. Why? The violence was state-inspired violence. The Kabaka Yeka people killed the people because they knew they were protected.
But you're telling
psychologist in Uganda, they will have 3 times when we have violence. 1, state-inspired violence.
When Kudango history about our elections in Uganda, literally, Tamale.
Why is it that UPC
Katononyo, literally, elections are supposed to mean okuba akalulu, okujaganya, okulonda omuntu ogwoyagala, but this time round, botunya history nga bw'omwogedde, kiri nti akalulu, elections have turned out to be a vigil, maziga na biwoobe. Why?
These are 2 issues. Bw'obanga oli coach, n'oyagala omutabani wo ali mu ttiimu y'abaatemba temugoba. Elections must be between a willing winner and a willing loser. You congratulate yourselves.
But does it happen? Why is it not happening in Uganda?
Sides that the British don't want Ben Chiwanuka, the Democratic Party, baleeta wano n'omusajja nga bamuyita Pierre Brown nga mubbi wa bululu purpose to rig elections. The British ne bagamba Ben Chiwanuka nti gwe gavumenti yo tejja kutegeka kulonda. Commonwealth rules don't. Where? Ne baddira ab'emmengo ne babagamba mutegeka okulonda. The chairman of Buganda Electoral Commission in 1961 was Abu Mayanja, a minister in the Mengo government.
Had the British China influence Mukaru, even up to date?
Returning officers, Bali Bami Bakabaka. One of the factions. You have denied the Bend to organize elections, but you are allowing Mengo to organize elections because you want Buganda, Baganda, Munkaga Mukutevalunda.
Abangereza ba China influence Mukaru kabili abiri mugumu.
MPs. The British urged that since the Buganda Chief was going to be elected by universal suffrage, the 21 MPs in Buganda should be elected by the Electoral College. Do it now.
80 days to voting.
Anti nkubuulira
abazungu ba China influence
ekibi kyokola mupapa nnyo. You want to finish, even if we talk about violence, it helps the people. Nkugambye, look what 2 elements. It shifts from a fair election, it shifts from who wins takes power to a factor an interest of a certain powerful group okulonda nikufa awo okulonda kwafa togaa nti abalonzi be baali abasiru. In fact the law nga bwe nze mbagamba, do you know that in 1962 to go to court to challenge elections you had to deposit 40 shillings
nga zaki
ogenda okuwaba mu kkooti nti bakubbye obululu mu nkaaga. Etteeka lyali ligamba omala kuteekayo ennoswana ng'ani azirina, because the British pound at that time yali ya siringi 2 era akesiringi 2 twakayitanga aka pound. Kakati election tezafa bannayuganda baali tebasobola kulonda. Given freedom Ugandans would vote. Given circumstances abangereza balina interests zaabwe. Kati ne tujja mu kinaana, what happened? The issue was, should Obote come back or not? DP was seen as a shield against Obote's return. Tewaliwo issue ndala. Era Kayiira yagamba, omugenzi Kayiira yali Namasuba addressing a rally. Naga nti if we want Obote to be charged for abolishing the kingdoms and demolishing the Rubiri, vote Semogere. Kayiira was hunted down by people. He had to flee. Obote took charge. Nabaga nti Obote yajja n'emmotoka ze nga ziriko number plate. Uganda wants Obote. UWO. Obote took
Uganda
over.
wants Obote.
Yes.
Wow.
He took over immediately. Why the battle was reduced between Gundi. Obote akomawo, Obata akomawo. The British wanted Obote. Why? Obote in 1980, in spite of what they had done, the Commonwealth Secretariat sent a man called George Kanyehamba to meet DP leaders in Nairobi to talk about the possibility of extending elections. But Semogere looked at it as a burden. UPM was demanding election. Bakubanika katuni mu wikire topic. Nga Semogere yali ku set Obote yayise ddamu kkubo ddala naye Semogere ebicupa byonna biri mu luguudo. Semogere could not extend the elections. Why? It was a burden to him. Bali batta aba DP. Akalukali kawedde. Kakati bwe tujja mu 80 ne kabeera reduced ku ekyo. Obululu buno bwonna obubaddewo. One of Museveni's achievements is that he was haunted by the past. Museveni nga tabba bululu. For the first time in 1980, the whole of Gundi, Honorable Second Java, Bajita Bukoto. Bukoto had one MP. Send away. One MP 1980 up to 1989. Never ballot a clear formula, a year 50,000 to be represented in the parliament, clearly, cutting across the whole country. Bukoto Chikirwa Babaka. Batan. 5. Secondary
Bukoto Central.
5. This cut across. Why? NRM wanted democracy at that time. It wanted democracy.
Tamale, you're one of the people who have been in the Ugandan making. Njagalombole, your honest truth. Is Uganda democratic?
Yes.
Like it assumes?
But you see, even democracy, why? The problem is either we win or they lose. Whereas Bafani's Bamungereza, Bakole Fujo, over Bakole Fujo, Britain, Yakubido, Twin Express one. Whatever Congo Express, Bama in Yakareferita GB. Era nze mbadde mbagamba bulijjo nti mirako ya Museveni eri eki. As Besigye complains that has been rigged out, the Ngandas who have won parliamentary seats go to parliament. Tumuwa dialogue with the whole of villages. Abantu ba celebrating. Let me tell you, Ugandans don't mind about the presidency.
I need to ask you this personal question.
Ugandans in a monarchical society where people are used to kings, the question of longevity of a leader doesn't work as long as he delivers. Era abantu bakugamba fenna tunaba president naye bw'otandika okubba obululu bwa MPs, this is where the fire is going to come. See what president.
Where's the difference?
I listen to them. At times in watching. Yesterday I rang somebody. Nemugamba, you have received 33 million shillings on your phone. True or not? Yes. From where? Nemugulira. Nemugamba nti sente ezo bazikuwadde mugule amasimu amapya mukyuse amasimu amakadde mubbe obulungi kubanga monitoring. Don't waste your time to buy new phone. Sigwosinga abantu bonna benkubi misa ina technology wamaanyi mugatugula amasimu sente zirye sente vyandi. Go and make sure that you convince the voters, but don't resort to cheating. The cheaters are not Museveni. In fact, the cheaters are going to spoil Museveni's boom. Why? Baagala okuleeta abawagizi baabwe mu parliament to dominate parliament by all costs.
In whose interest are the members of parliament, not the president?
Anti kakati kankubuulire election yeno naye eringa ya 62 eringa ya 80. Why? Nti balowooza this is the last lap of Museveni. Kakati mulimu group ey'abana abavubuka abajozi benakuba jjo nga bategeka escape routes. Tulina okubeera ekisugu, tulina bajja kubakwatira temujja kudduka. The best you should do, don't mess up with elections. N'ekisugu bajja bakwatirayo.
Are we really going to have a free and fair election?
Kakati make sure ti omubaka wa parliament kansala gwe bawangudde bamuwangula.
Akirize.
But
it doesn't happen. Tekibangawo wano mu Africa, not even in Uganda.
Naye bomba mulowooza. Let me tell you, ndaba bukedde. Museveni aleese omukambu mu Kampala. Museveni aleese omukambu mu Kampala. Let me tell you, there is no professional army that can turn against its citizens.
Awo tugenda tuka muzeyi. Nika nkuze wali katono nnyo nga tututa kumboza endala. Katono nnyo muzeyi Tamale. Olwaki omanyi lwaki nkubuuza whether Uganda is democratic. Tuliziganye muzeyi Tamale. Omanyi lwaki nkubuuza wa Uganda is democratic. I have a belief in democracy gwe tuyina akyali ku lupapula. If we call ourselves independent, katono nnyo.
Mumugamba temuyina
tuliziganye.
Nze njirina media freedom.
Tuliziganye.
Because I'm empowered.
Tuliziganye.
Ajjoke muyo omulenzi bamukube mwaso omutwe. Yajjangako emwe. Ajijjeko kati bamukube ne buwoteri babuwote.
Tuliziganye.
Akawala kali mu UCC kajjeko emu.
Bwe tugamba nti Uganda yafuna independence mu 1962.
You see.
Ne batugamba abazungu nti if you want to attain democracy, you need to have periodic elections.
Trump abadde kuvaako.
Katono nnyo tuliziganye muzeyi Tamale.
Given a chance Trump abadde kuvaako.
Tuliziganye katono nnyo. Amawanga gonna aga Africa agafugibwako ensi ez'enjawulo bwe baba obwetwaze buli nsi ya defining a democracy in their own setting.
Nkoleka bulesi kubanga goli mwana muto naye kankubuulire.
Anti
Ghana balya mmere. The Ghanaians have decided that our country must move. The Ghanaians have decided maybe what I can see
because they defined their own setting. They woke up and defined their own setting.
Ghanaians and their leaders have accepted that the country must move.
It started way back for Kurulia ya Kwame Nkrumah. Now setting Ghana how they want to govern themselves. Never butwafuna independence. We never took time to define how we should govern ourselves.
All of the constitutions of Uganda have excellent bills of rights. A Ugandan cannot be in a prison beyond these hours. Have you ever seen a constitution going visiting the prisons to release these people? A constitution remains a document unless the activists who can enforce it. A constitution is a marriage ring. Tewali omuwala wabukedde yayendera mu lodging n'empeta agirina. Empeta yakuba enduulu. So, democracy depends on the leaders. We have decided our country must develop. Whoever nga mujjemu ne anger. If I win, if this man wins, I have to go into exile. If this wins, I will not stay here. Museveni does not pursue his enemies. But when we live here, comfortably, elections are here. Museveni abanya bagundi. Museveni does not believe in the political assassinations.
Wewa ochali ku STV the sharp talk katoyongereyo ebibiina by'enjawulo omuli FDC omuli NUP omuli NRM National Resistant Movement bavuddeyo ne bagamba nti why bagenda kuteekawo tali centers zaabwe ez'enjawulo. Era wano twebuuza nti aba Electoral Commission kino kibalekawa.
Kyembuuza nti boogerera mu basiru. Let me tell you, is there a provision that if you are not satisfied with the UNEB results, do you mark your exams? And maybe you they should waste time debating rubbish.
How rubbish is it?
Yes. No intelligent person can do it. If you don't want the Electoral Commission, you don't trust it, reject it from day one. But this man, Nembaga nti ayinyo Byabakama was DPP who prosecuted Kizza Besigye on a stupid case. It was just a holding case. Teri lawyer munsi aso eneyasoma elementary law asobola okugamba you can charge somebody with rape after 2 years. What are the ingredients of rape? Ne DPP onye chokolo Byabakama. Why didn't Besigye protest that this man shouldn't be the chairman of the Electoral Commission? They wanted to use this as a blackmail. Bamulekawo bolowooza nga nina amagezi mutwe nga Katonda bwe yampa amagezi nina logic. Would you expect Besigye to keep quiet if he is a former tormentor becomes a judge in a case where he is involved? I leave the public to judge it. Era abalasha bagera ne bafuna omusajja bamuyitanga Kotwadham. Kotwadham yali ava mu Australia nga yize nazi. Abalasha nga bamumanyi nti nazi is a former nazi man. Yattanga abantu mugundi. Bamuleka n'abeera secretary general wa UN. But every time nga bamubulakamairinga. Until the Americans realized Russia ifuna nnyo mu Security Council name General Assembly. Why? Because of this man. When this man retired and went back to Austria and stand as president, the Austrians rejected him. He was a Nazi. Kakati fetuchimanyi, I can keep quiet, ninkuteeka obweni. Nze bali batwali tulwanyisa etteeka ly'abamawulire. Etteeka ly'abamawulire nafuna omukisa. Nga bonna abali ku kakiiko ako mazoba investigating. Abalina fake papers, abalina ki. Waliwo n'abalina bouncing checks nenzifuna. Kasa twagenda mu kakiiko ne batuula. A man called Gasatula humiliated us. Humiliated me. I've never seen an arrogant man, but he was a senior foot dropout, that a pilot. Every time he was talking about piloting a plane. Piloting a plane is a driving permit. A pilot is an exaggerated taxi driver. Akati Gasatula yatugamba, to you people, you are like a bus attendant. But most of our mothers deliver by the assistance of bus attendants. But they are not qualified medical doctors. So, journalists who have experience without academic papers are like bus attendants. I've never been insulted in my life. Blood sagged. Nimbagirayo bounced checks. Do you have the moral authority to talk arrogantly like this? What happened? That's how I fought. Nobody has fought for freedom, media freedom like me. What am Uganda one? I'm not an opportunist.
Occupation hazard.
And Media Council is a product of the 1995 Act. Ani yagiza wafula ne banne ebakwatiddeyo ebanyweze learn in the future. I fought it ekutte mweze tenkwa.
Ensonga ya Electoral Commission. I need a clear observation on this.
Electoral Commission, what is its role?
Electoral Commission from time immemorial has been subjected to judgment. Hangabagamba independence yayo bagitankana. So okuvayo ne bagamba agenda take out independent tally centers.
Is only a woman. A man who is going to marry a woman, so you don't blame. Togama neyati fabagandi yatu ina proverb nti gund neyati otomunenya. How can a girl know baita balwas those who have tightened the bones? Kakati wabata yenda nga kamanya atya. So you must, that's why the Mugole must go with the Senga. In case the girl fails, the Senga pays. In normal circumstances, used to be old women who are not attractive. These days you change it. Kakati today, are you complaining about the Electoral Commission? Have you read the roles of the Electoral Commission?
Is to conduct a free and fair election. Yes. Its primary role.
And in truth, do you know that it's not the final, it's not like a UNEB? Anybody who has aggrieved goes to court.
Judiciary is the final.
And the court has limited. We have a law that limits the time under which.
How credible is the Electoral Commission?
You cannot kill a hunger man because a hunger man has hanged your criminal father.
Do you know that you don't stick to your words at some point?
Yes.
Juzi wavayo ogamba obakubamu ebituli.
Yes.
Ate kati obagamba they are responsible.
Tukole kikati. What should we do? Ekyattu omwami nakimanya lwaki tewayogera. The time for talking to rectify whatever you are talking about now was there. The law establishing the Electoral Commission was debated by Parliament. The President proposed names which were vetted by Parliament. I don't know that any of their names was rejected. Constituencies were not created by Electoral Commission. They were gerrymandered by Nankabirwa and her team in favor of NRM. This man had even the audacity of crossing from his former constituency to another constituency, a minister. As Bikireno, Kubaba Agamba, there was a young man working in the State House, Nayagala Yesimbewo. Kakati bano abasajja bakulu abo ne batola Erioda nono gundi Kanyomozi yabamuyitani yali minister of finance ne bagamba nyi omwana tumublocking. In case this young man wins, Museveni is likely to appoint him a minister. Ne baganging up Erioda naveno nadde ne bakuba omwana. Constitution kabazabu bazikoze. Kakati nze nkugamba I analyze a system, tukita systems analysis in political science. I analyze a system. Kakati as we stand today, the electoral law we are following was enacted, is a new law which merged the old election law and the Heresy Act that was governing, invoked to govern COVID-19. Kakati anyatali yo. Museveni is not Idi Amin who used to decrease. These are people who sit in parliament, debate their laws, and eventually, because people are gullible, are ignorant, you don't blame this election commission as we started today. Constituencies were gerrymandered as your eyes were wide open. Nankabiro nagenda mu caucus ne beetera ugundi zaabwe. Look what the constituencies, some constituencies in a Gombola Biri and Darazinem, it only appears in the sentence of Abawa.
So literally all these challenges are brought up by the parliament.
This is again Mugundi wa Mumwebi first. I will never work in a government job again. I help society more than when I'm in a government under control. Who can ring my number now? For 7 years nobody has rang my number. Where do I belong? Do you want to be a minister? If I'm an advisor, written by your call advisors and whether he sees me attending their meetings, I'm empowered. That's why I'm popular. Nti kakati obuleminga kafero yayimba oluyimba n'agamba nti kati ogenda ganti Satan yakukema. Where did you meet Satan? Don't blame Satan.
So we shouldn't blame Electoral Commission for all these.
Electoral Commission has failed to tell the people, one, by the time we talk about all of these people are novices. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, apart from this incidental political career, Gund, Mupia, ono omukyala yekimuli bakiteekawo because we have to get to accommodate Muslims. Then we should have a military council formed of religious people, locally, and the Basilamu and what. Kakati omukasi talina law. Two, they suffered another blow. The most experienced person on the Electoral Commission was Rwakojo. Rwakojo was sacked. The most experienced person on the that Electoral Commission was Talemu, was sacked. And no replacements were made. So, nature nacho.
Anyway, you're one of the people.
Why should we have to train our people? Never for experience. The rule in the Electoral Commission would apply to civil service. When you clock the age of retirement, you retire. But don't disband the entire commission. What's the role? Look at this commission. Mali organized elections under COVID.
True.
South Korea organized elections under COVID. Tanzania organized elections under COVID. Burundi organize mwalabako abasajja bereketo commission yabo nga bagendayo tuwakawaya experience
balina okugenda
yes. Abaana abawala bwe bagenda okufumbirwa bagendako ku mbaga z'abannaabwe ne balaba gawuni ez'omulembe.
Bwe nkula ng'oyogera bw'otyo olinga agamba there's somebody who is benefiting from this.
Mwenna era waliwo jjaji gwe nsinga okuwa ekitiibwa yawoza omusango yasala omusango gwa ziwa ne Naabagesera. Abakazi baali balondera mu electoral college kakati ziwa n'akuŋŋanya abataali ba LC n'abateeka mu electoral college. Naabagesera n'agenda n'awaabo. Omulamuzi yamugamba this confusion would have benefited the two of you. If you had defeated Ziwa would have raised these issues. Why did you seek an injunction in the court to rectify the problem? Yaga Ziwa wangute. Netufuna omulamuzi omulala Wambuzi was confronted by a case. Dokita Kayiro Mugenzi ne Semwogerere bawaaba mu court to nullify ogamba nti ule yagibwako mu bukyanga. Kibuliza Kirunda raised an issue te Wambuzi aguveemu omusango ali biased naye Wambuzi n'agasajja guvaamu basala omusango ne bagamba lule yagibwako mu bukyanga, but the court does not have powers to reinstate him. Yes, a successful revolution is illegal. Omusajja wambye gavumenti abalamuzi bajja ne bamulayiza. Kakati when do you complain? I always say nti does it pay a parent to advise his daughter not to move with the bad boys after falling pregnant? Because the pregnant cannot be increased. Tikale sigala kufeeze nesooka naye tebongerako yakubiri na yakusa. She will be this.
Nega kati muzei Tamale, let's speak realistic to get realities. Zino political parties zataddewo talent centers zaabwe. What happens singa electoral commission
be raided and put in prison?
Bagambye ziri secretive. So what happens singa electoral commission releasing results that are contrary to their results? What happens then?
Me, I'm a realist.
I
believe in realism. I'm not a Katemba man.
You call this Katemba?
Basically, declared himself president of Uganda and the
Nakwa People's Government
ceremony. But the president was told earlier tebayigaba abasajja eri tumwine Tinyefunza and another group went, they fired the president and installed Mugabe. I remember headline in Nebukede Chahwa. Museveni said, if he is real Mugabe, let him move as Mugabe. I will arrest him. Did it work? In spite of the fact that these were generals, senior generals, and the fact the president directed the command of Umbalala to go and disperse that function. The command of Umbalala said, I cannot do it because of Tinyefunza and Eri Tumwine, they are my seniors. Museveni said, okay. Addressed a press conference and said, if Tinyefunza and Eri Tumwine really installed your Mugabe, let the Mugabe move. And he said, how can he install the Mugabe in the cemetery? Did it work? Basically, he comes back because they don't learn from their stupid mistakes. Basically, he declared himself president. The oath was conducted in a secret place. And he declared a people's government. But
is it working?
Did he get the tools of authority?
Anyway, ebule ennaku ziri munana zokka kubanga electoral commission egenda organizing akaluka abiri mugumu era nga bwe twogerera eri mu one of the last stages ez'okuorganizing akaluka katono nnyo twongere Mzee Tamale bwe twogerera electoral commission process gyeriko yaba abalonzi okugenda okufuna voter slip zaabwe waliyo mivuyo egyetooloddeawo mu kufuna voter slips era nga amabegakaawo electoral commission yagamba nti afuna okuwabulwa okuva mu ministry obulamu nga bagamba nti districts 13 temugenda kubeera mu kulonda naye ekibuuzo ekyebuzibwa abalonzi
kati ekyo kijja kiddamu kanzireyo eri
wakyagala kuddenze anti akadde
anti nze ne bwe nkola egundi emu I have a daily briefing on my platform a daily briefing those people must be raided and arrested.
But there is a democracy
my
in this
proposal now, my even proposed tough proposal is that even the newspapers should not publish preliminary results. That's rubbish.
Opinion polls.
Because they have been lining up their favorites in the Bukede and other newspapers.
But Mzee Machi, one thing you forgot to understand, what is rubbish to you can't be rubbish to everybody. Mzee, that is so cold.
Yes. No. Until you have a remedy to kitegede nti bano ba mafias bawambe popula za muri bakana gishika no kwakurubia. I was reading a story in the Monitor yesterday highlighting those who were killed in the riot. Are we seeing dead people for the first time? Where did the security attack a wedding? Was it a peaceful demonstration? No, a riot. That you see, Vision was talking about Museveni's deployment. Look at the deploying Abakambwe. New Vision Monitor was telling us that this can happen because of this. Were they found at a wedding? No. Kakati namawulire kulu tegafuluma.
And you call Uganda a democratic republic.
And we are fighting something dangerous. Yes, and you know, Ogundi, Murutalu, General Sansu Yakoga never persuade a disparate army. These people have no interest, national interest to pursue. Me, Abaganda Baganti, Yabo Jedwa Musota. My mother survived the lynching. Why? Uganda riots. Let the Monitor tell us how many people died in Uganda riots. Why do you talk about this recent one?
The list of people that died on the 18th and 19th.
What about those who were killed at Kashobi when Museveni went to after the fire cutting in Macedonia? Yes. What about those? What about those who died at Bulang? So this, you see, Ugandans have been dying in avoidable circumstances. So for me, I even call for tougher measures. What do we get? What the newspaper lose? If that newspaper does not come out the following day, in 1980, we came out, we published a story on falsehoods given it once by the DP people. Tebaina mobile phones by sawa munana bali batandise okulangirira. A paper yaffe yamuno mu 1980 yayina omutwe nti gundi UPC leaders to arms tetwagocha. We had to ban the newspapers. Muwanga yaleta ban nti ayogera ku byokulonda fine emitwalo 5 n'emyezi 6 oba boss. Even Cardinal Nsubuga did not today. But Muwanga naye yali mu panic. Muwanga was trying to solve a problem, but he was not understood. This one we must do it orderly, in an orderly manner. Let all of these newspapers don't come out announcing the preliminary, confusing the people, because they will quote according to the tally.
Then what is the essence of having a tally center, a chamber?
Let us have all of the when the president is addressing a nation, all the 9 o'clock news, these radio stations, according to the law, are supposed to play music, not news. You can read the law that establishes these radio stations and TV stations.
Then there is no democracy.
TV radio zone but never correspondence. We have a limit that anybody aggrieved has an alternative. You go to court. You go to court. In fact, when you read my book.
So you're calling for a total blackout of coverage
to protect our country. Nabagamba nti Saddam Hussein tricked the Americans. Bush. He mounted an artillery piece on top of a bunker that he had used to house children and women. Abagundi, American warplanes, niziwoza and Saddam yekwesemu, niziwereza smart bomb, nijigala mulyango. Many children and women died. And this man, Saddam's trick worked very well. The public opinion in America turned against Bush. Do you know what Bush did? They targeted Al Jazeera. American war planes targeted Al Jazeera. It had become a war target. They killed even journalists inside Al Jazeera. Who controls Al Jazeera now is in American hands. They know how to protect their country.
You know
what will
happen?
Even if
the
Minister of Information, government,
you call for a total blackout.
I call the newspapers. How much money do you make every day?
No,
I refund the money to protect this country. In that, and they have already told you.
No. But
let me tell you. Do you think if the public wanted to know everything, why is it that a Senga goes with a white bed sheet mu kisenge ky'abagole? Abawestana bo baleetanga kinusu ekirimu ekituli nti muwala wa musimbeerera egundi Abaganda suuka n'akabuzi akatono manya nti omwana w'ombeerera. But you don't take the Kidala people inside the bedroom to know whether the function has taken place. The man has stood on the has fulfilled his obligations. When it comes to a country's security, I know. Look, you are exaggerating violence, you are doing what? But you tell me one thing. Have you seen anybody cutting it down somebody's pretensions because he's either the DP, is an opposition or a government opposition? Have you seen violence on the ground? People are moving normally. Ugandans don't resort to violence unless they are incited by their leaders or a foreign country. I always give you an example of one day.
I think you're talking about Ugandans over different generations
operating at a very short distance. In Uganda, when you see violence, it has been paid for.
Don't you think there is a generation?
The riot, I drove myself from Kampala to my village for the first time, and I did not have escorts. What I saw, they were burning the new tires. Immediately I passed their roadblock at Chengera. Everywhere I was going, they were waving at me. In fact, I remember at Rukaya, I came out of my vehicle and we took selfies with the rioters. Where are you going? I said, I'm going to bring him. When I went to Nyendo, I entered the Nyendo, I found the police exchanging fire with the fire immediately ceased. I drove and we went home and I came back. Kakati kitegezaji. The violence, to mitigate against the violence, don't incite violence. Allow the people, especially MPs, those ones, this a short man, a short person, wakoma wakwata. Abantu bano mu byalo mubawe freedom yaabwe. Beeronderwa baayirosizi baabwe, as Museveni has always done. Museveni's election has always been exonerated by the fact that people vote the people they want. But if we want to use the money, I hear them, I watch them. In Otafirezi constituency, man has already arrived. In Rakai, in Chotira Kasolo's constituency, the first amount of money which was sent there was 400 million. These 200 went, and yesterday, 2 days ago, 30 million went on somebody's phone to buy new sets because Miso, they were suspecting that Miso infiltrates there. I told the man, don't waste your 3 million which is on your phone to buy new telephone sets. I have already infiltrated everywhere. Miso has infiltrated everywhere. And fortunately, the man had been advised by his financer that Museveni gave that madman sophisticated machines. When you see him talking about you, Museveni has instructed him to expose you. But for us, the big ones, he gives him the information and he keeps them. Kakati ebibi mulimu. Mumugenda okuleta violence. Muleka abantu beerondere ku level zaabwe bazina amazina gaabwe. Because for me, I don't even see why the president should struggle okuleta abenaali mu parliament. Whenever there is a controversial bill, Nankabiro demands money. Muzeike watugamba. These are political prostitutes. How can I give my wife money whenever I want Yakabozi? So whether you have them too.
Well, from that point, in
politics, there's what we call cohabitation. Cohabitation means that the president can have an oppositionally dominated parliament. We call it habitation. How can these MPs refuse to implement policies that help the peasant? The peasants will rise against them.
Wow, katugende mukumulamu katono nyo bwe tukomawo tugenda komawo ne okuba torch mu kalulu akagenda okubanka kuba munaku ntono nyo okubonako olwaliro. Electoral Commission and other stakeholders abaketoloddemu bo beetegese batya. Jukira districts 13 temubaddemu kuwa campaign ng'ekibuuzo ekyebuuzibwa abo batakubidde campaign, are they going to make an informed decision or not? Ekyo ekibuuzo kyetukomawo nakyo. For now katukomewo.
Watching STV, select for fun.
Oyagala okusuubula emitala w'amayanja? Ffe aba Tamale Enterprises Uganda Limited tukuyambako okusuubula ebyamaguzi byo, okubitambuza wamu n'okufunira biterekebwa. Tubikusasulira nga bituuse e Mutukula, e Malaba, Busia, ssaako ne Nakawa. Gwe yandyetaaze okusuubula mu nsi nga China ne Dubai, tukiryalinga ebyamaguzi byo nga biyita ku mwalo gw'e Mombasa, ssaako ne Dar es Salaam. Awo nno ne tubituusiza ddala ku mulyango gwo. Ate gwalemereddwa osasula omusolo, teweeraliikirira. Tugukusasulira oluvannyuma n'osasula mu kibanja mpola. Ffe aba Tamale Enterprises Uganda Limited tusangibwa Bugoloobi ku luguudo lwa Portbel olukadde ku kizimbe kya Maria. Okumanya ebisingawo kuba ku ssimu zino wammanga noti 754 25 56 46 oba noti 788 71 28 96.
Erinda nkulu nnyo era omuntu asaanidde okwekuuma n'ebibye. Wano nno Eagle Eye Security and Technologies Limited weeviiriddeyo. Balina buli kika kya CCTV camera, alarm systems, gwe w'ekidduka kyo ng'emmotoka oba pikipiki weefunira GPS tracking system okuva mu bakafulu bano. Balina fensi z'amasannyalaze, razor wire ne access control ez'enzigi. Basange Najjanankumbi, Entebbe Road okumpi na Shell Kazi opposite TNT Supermarket. Bakubire ku simu 0705 367 732 oba 0789 357 099. Eagle Eye Security and Technologies Limited.
Hey guys, you're watching STV, select for fun.
okwaniriza gwe yakatwegata ku STV the Sharp Talk nawe atambudde naffe okuva bwe twatandikidde okukoza kya ttendo naddala mu abatugoberera ku Facebook n'abali emitala w'amayanja mwebale nnyo mwebale ddala naawe atulabira wano eno mu nsonda z'eggwanga ez'enjawulo abali mu Eastern mu Central mu Northern wamu ne mu Western mwebale nnyo kubanga mutambula wamu naffe naye nga njagala okukubiriza yenna yandyetaaze okulanga naffe jangu buterevu wano ku offices zaffe ku kizimbe kya Sky Complex e Buziga oba oyagala kulangira mu STV the Sharp Talk we are very open osobola tukubira ku namba simu 0755428837 oba jangu oyogere ne sales manager buterevu osobola okubanga business yo ogikuba abantu mu maaso bwe tweyongerayo ne Sharp Talk atugobera ensonga nga bwe zigenda maaso mu ggwanga naye nga wakati wange namwe tukimanyi ennaku ziri 8 zokka ezibula Uganda ebenga esalawo so mu nnaku 8 ezo zitugezaako okutunulira wamu n'omukuku na Tamale Mirundi atubuulire ye endowooza ye eri ki naddala nga Electoral Commission yavaayo n'efulumya ebiragiro ng'egamba nti yafuna okuwabulwa okuva mu minisitule y'ebyobulamu mu districts 13 abacandidates ab'enjawulo gye batakubye campaign so ekibuuzo kiri nti bano abalonzi bo are they going to make an informed decision or not?
Let me tell you.
And what does it mean?
By now nabagamba nti mu Africa you study society kyolaba gati abo social scientists batuyambye. It's not like Europe. Do you know what is contained in the book when is manifesto? Walabye kuyane
nalabako ya President Museveni
wagisomamu
nagisomamuko
ngeri mubisi bibiri ku debate. This election is between abagala consolidating nga secure your future ne frustrated youth abagate bafunyemu
two groups zokka ziziri mu competition
tinabana abasajja bagezi. When you look at the way they are organizing themselves the opposition in a hand engezi nnyo tekakati Tumukunde does not campaign for himself. Tumukunde says mulonde change. Why? Tumukunde knows he is now protected as a presidential candidate. Otherwise nabaganti book the vision yet sola kwa kifani cha Tumukunde nga bamusibye empingo because it was a humiliating photo. Abasajja bo batula abo opposition ne bategeera nti mawu ajja kututabula ayinza okuba moro yaba is angat ekibiina kye tukisokodde ne bamufuula chairman owaki chairman wa gundi owaabwe gundi lebali baprotesting okukwatibwa kwani mawu ne bamudisambinga. Tumukunde tanoonya kaluluke anoonya future tikakati bwene bwabeerawo the opposition nga weeri bwene yekweka mu opposition and has a number of MPs era nabaga Tumukunde wagenda obbakubira yali muyiso omuntu yenna ayina empapula enfu neyesimbawo agenda mu exposing aveeyo abamanyi kakati bwobatunuulira notunuulira nti a person ono omukulu w'ebikonde who had the wealth of knowledge ono gwe basse bategeera nti agenda kuditeketinga wa Museveni bamubattula. What does it mean? Waliwo omulala ajjayo omutwe waliwo omulala agenda okulosinga wa Museveni ngono bamubattudde gatako negundi ono muvubuka Frank Akumbuzi kakati ono Bobi Wine bwe yamaze okuva ewa Lwanga yalazeewa Omega. What's the significance of Omega? Omega, that man, that pastor and the pastor Semper fought vigorously against Kayanja's alleged involvement in homosexuality. They lost their case. Kayanja is an entrenched pastor in the State House. This is why when Wijingo meandered into State House to preside over Afendi Muhoozi's birthday party to be a chief celebrant, bukedde yamukuba nibagamba n'ekizimbe kyeyasabira ekyali venue tikitonya to hit at him muti mubitegeera kakati Bobi Wine even if you had a last minute bomb linking Bobi Wine to homosexuality nobody will believe it. Why? Has already insulated himself, has gone to a man who fights Bisiaga Omega.
How
if Bobi Wine was receiving money from homosexuals, how could he be hosted and the man moved a step further? Abirwanyisa.
Wow.
Kakati kitegeeza nti bino byonna nze sigaana put you up Gondi instead of working like a fire brigade ensure that the capital
Bobi Wine amubalira
babala bagezi babazi bayina a foreign hand I suspect sai tibabala nnyo akola Gondi wano nakola yin
nti you suspecting okubanga ali funded by abali bebisiya gata against okusabira abali ababirwanyisa.
Before the president takes a route there is a route command Tamale gavuga bwata nachi there must be people stationed ne motoka era babaka emo yitawo indanita that's why motoka yentomedde ne muleka bulisimbo kubanga namujja mu information emotoka za president zali ziseewo yali avudde watomere yange head on kagati muntu ki is it God who created this situation where Museveni met Bobi Wine at Chibuye?
Was it planned?
And if Museveni is not a man who can stomach a provocation, bali baprovoke ne bakuba Bobi Wine amasasi. Ani abikola?
That's a question. It's worth thinking about it.
Before I talk about violence, I must even protect the president's security. It seems they are inside as we see.
So the state is also infiltrated. Is it what you're trying to say?
When I was still in State House, I observed one rule. You don't reveal the whereabouts of the president. At one time, Bukenya incited the president against me. Yali eranda nani nyenye abasabaze. Kati I was contacted. Nebangamba create a diversion. Defend this. There's two planes. Lwaki yali nye abasabaze. Nemba creating as an intelligent man. Was checking the economic class. From now onwards, Kenya incited him against me. Why did you reveal my whereabouts before I even boarded the plane? I said, you were security. I even helped you to create a diversion for you. Are you harassing me? Kakati, oh no. Our Bobi Wine, yes, Museveni had it one day. Yes, Sinkana Nabani, Naba. Sebagala ekisubi namuwevingira no namuwevingira na yejo was advised to go by helicopter Museveni n'agaana nja kubayitamu kino ekyo bye kyavuddewo
ate nga bakitegera nti Bobi Wine yagenze ku Omega kusaba
Bobi Wine lwaki yalinze essaawa ezo where did the two correspond arrived at a particular
are you trying to say nti Bobi Wine n'aba informers with this
ebyo mbibalekera naye nze kembagamba kana kataba nakawandika dda
naye ati kibuzo kyange tokizzeemu
ekyo kibalekera akataba kano kalaba nakawandika dde
wakawandika compiled at 5:33 on the 21st of April 2017
kana akatabo kangi nnyo nakakaba emirundi mingi
kagamba ki
again
at the crossroads
bagamba nti ekisanja Museveni ejja kiyisaamu whenever we have a problem nga tuli ku crossroad Museveni identifies the right way kati nabagamba where Ugandans must take care. One in a page in. Those who have it, who have not bought it, you go to the bookshop, they are there. Those who fear inside the buildings. Nkugamba. After analyzing the above, the question is why the opposition in Uganda has failed to defeat Yoweri Museveni. My observations are based on 3 factors. In almost all African countries where the incumbent have been defeated, there are 3 remarkable factors. Our security, our chi. There are 3 factors that cause trouble in the country. 1, the opposition in Africa is fragmented. In many African countries, political parties rotate around ethnicity, which renders efforts to forge unity against the incumbent impossible. In addition, the opposition lacks money to survive and only resort to being models of the regime. This means that the incumbent in such a cases as it is in Uganda controls both the party and the opposition. This is how President Moi maintained the power for 24 years in Kenya. However, when Moi picked Uhuru Kenyatta as a political novice, the opposition picked Mwai Kibaki. No one will wonder which it is. all of these years, 2 years to the election, we have had many financial scandals. Nga buli wali sente bagobawo omuntu nakalema namukwata ne batwala mu kangalo kooti yaabwe ne bagoba ba nasali ovunaanira ta nasali mbu yabye ne banne miliyoni 45 mu ministry mwe yavedda a woman who presided over a project of $100 million amasanyazi ne bagabba buli wumu they were accumulating money for elections ettaka gontayewa ettaka ly'ekabanyolo n'alitunda lyataatawo tukulize kabanyolo ettaka lyagundi ono musajja ne batunda ettaka to raise money because they were obsessed with the money. As they tampered with the service delivery, bo balowooza nti abalunzi bagulibwa mubagule mulabe babaleete 10 omulenzi oyo adduke ne kagulupu ke nkugamba. Another important factor is where the opposition has mobilized the masses against rigged elections. This is where you have the problem.
Mobilizing the masses?
Yes, kasitamunazanyira ku babaka bwa parliament lowa kundi eyo sente zemutambuza nemweza sente ku masimu mwabali mu government mumubuuzi ow'ekyotero basamugamba kyolina miliyoni 3 ku ssimu yo zivudde wagundi abagambye gula masimu ago mugozi bano tebayoza essimu tebaleeta omuchina nayoza essimu ngambala nazoza zonna nazanika ku musana enkyasa bakwata. Do you fight a satellite? Kakati, this is where there is a problem. Another important factor is where the opposition has mobilized the masses against rigged election, or where the incumbent refuses to concede defeat, like in the case of Yahya Jammeh in Gambia. Yasooka naga nti nzikiriza neyekyusa kubanga mugezi yali ayita omusajja ono agende mu State House bamuttire mu kkuba akalukaddemu. The man, because he was under the Senegalese Yahya yakola ensobi Senegal erina oluguudo oluyita mu Gambia ogenda mu territory yayo. This man blocked the road. The Senegalese said no, what type of person are you? Bagezaako n'okukola Senegambia mu biseera bya Sajjawala ne Kirema. So Senegal has an interest there. The moment this Yahya blocked the road, the Senegalese moved in. Katukukuba oveewo ono yaddukira Senegal sije yava. He made a mistake. Kakati nkugamba. The next point, which the third case, is where the army has intervened to remove the incumbent from power. An example is Burkina Faso. In this case, during when the army played a big role and ushered in the administration, the same was applied in Central African Republic. That's what I tell you. A country that cannot sacrifice its children for all domestic overseas interests is not a country. America rate abajase mitwale nabongeza kasavu. France, that's why the commander of NATO forces must be an American general, the standard weapon. Kakati Rwanda has deployed soldiers in Central Africa.
Talking about deployment, when
the army move in, but our army is composed of highly educated people. Finally, the death factor, unfortunately for the Ugandan opposition, all of the above factors do not and have not applied. Uganda's situation is very unique. I have always compared the Ugandans to a divorcee who has almost seen it all. In the mid-80s and 90s, a political wave of change swept across the African continent, ridding it of single-party dictatorships, with Uganda remained an island. The question is why? Because Uganda's history is quite unique. Ugandans went through the UPC Kabaka Alliance struggles of 60s, the Idi Amin murderous regime that left 1 million Ugandans dead, the military juntas, and finally the NRA. I was experiencing somewhere, Uganda the revolutions of North Africa. They are coming back in a different way. Mubarak is nowhere. Bashir is nowhere. They are following the Nile. That's why I tell you.
Kati Nile flowing every kati koma when.
Eriba akozesa muwala wa chapati. A campus student. Eno bakozesa zaji.
Muyimbi.
Look what the sequence. Now I have a lot of time. I don't want these people.
Nairo kati flowing ekoma wenu.
Mbategeera nti Beniberi navuma nalwananga ne musisi ngabantu bagamba nze nina taxi zange. Even that one if I can protect my property. Ate kiba kityanga ate mu government mwendi mali yange bajibu. I should have. Oba nina kamunye 10 oba mmeka nanga akukenzi byeyo. Nafune ettaka.
Soka tule mwakubye mu luseka kamukasi.
Nzeyitamba. Yakusa yagala dibba nalupo.
Buli mukata kubye mu luseka asikabuchaze.
Ettaka nja kulitundira nalitunda. Ate nalikuza government. Kubanze nafuna amagezi gange nengula ettaka mu middle wa project nga tebasobola kukola project. Auditor General n'ayogera mbosoi na balibe nakola ki mumpita weraka mumpita musiru nalitunde millions za $2 oba mulowooza nti ffe twajja
ngoli musajja mugaza
kwanikira ddala nakubase bagunyi naliremera ne bagenda niwa president ndiremera ne bateeka mu akasajja musemenya ennyumba ya staff byamusiyaganga nadduka paka lwegivaamu nentunda ettaka lyange bwerindi temuyinza kunenekamu kakati nakubwanga musiŋambakanga nti abaleeta ebizibu gavumenti eringa gundi eringa bodaboda ekivuvumira n'ekikongoli ebigikuba ekigo kakati Benibera ani yamukuba ekigo mwana yeyokya because Ugandans are very unique people. That example of boda people banning themselves tekirabyeko wano kakati ani abikola ani yabijja Tunisia abireetewo
naye sisuubira nti was a staged action. No si bwe kyali muzeyi Tamale ebyaddala. Then what happened after?
Akyagaana anti kekano kenkugambe ti Ugandans are very unique people. Ekyokubiri insurance esinga obukulu mu Uganda tebamula nti abo abantu bafa monitor ba highlighting. Most of those people were workers. Mu Uganda ffe tuli mu informal sector. Abo abaana bannereega
yezo sente zaalagawa
omulimu gwabwe.
What happened to that compensation money?
I don't have a government job. But my resistance costs, I derive my resistance costs from doing private work.
What happened to that compensation money?
Kakati nze nkugamba anti Museveni bwe yagamba compensation bukedde nekuba nti baganye ate nekaddamu nekakuba n'olugongo lwako nekakuba nekagamba abaakubwa babuliddwa kubanga balowooza nti Museveni bamukompensate. Oyinza okubanga naye Museveni balooya bamubuulira balooya be if you compensate these people are you creating a danger because his initiatives Museveni is a generous man. Baana bwe bati bafe kakati kwalowozeza nti yali kubidde omukyalo oyo webikonde
apana wewa katuyongerawo ne STV the sharp talk olunaku olweggulo President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni yabadde ayogerako ne abawagizi be oba voters eside ze ekisoro bamusabye nti owaaye ayina okuta mukaoba okujjako okusonyiwa mu omwana w'obutaka General Kale Kayihura yali adumira polisi yensi yatu Uganda kati n'omukulembeze w'eggwanga yavuddeyo n'agamba nti agenda kwogerako ne kooti y'amagye okulaba nga badroppinga all charges against Kale Kayihura. Wano wenjagala okubuuliza omukuku na Joseph Tamale Mirundi kino kitegeeza ki does it mean Kayihura akomawo mu active service oba eno target ya kuwangula Kalungu?
Nakugaa nti abo abasajja tebamanyi Museveni waabakubira. Many people don't understand Museveni. Museveni never fight personal battles. When any general oba omuntu yenna amukwasa kooti ye. That's why he finds the problem of the dealing with the police. Police in a police marshal, in a disciplinary committee. Tinyefunza first a court marshal. Oh no, tumukunde yamala egindi banga. I used to tell him to baje kusibanga takkiriza. Banze nalira ni mu 201. Ngira yakala for president.
Hey, ambition yavadda. Okay.
We had planned for 2016.
Yaja 2016.
Bankwata nange bankwata. We met afterwards after ngali gundi emyaka mingi nemuganda nange libakwata bwe yali agenda okubesimba okuba me he called me we had a meeting muganda wa nawe odduse loza ekireri kiri bulungi we met in Fanga bagita batyeyo nyanganga tunyanganga
Fanga hotel awe nakasero
nampa ne kadola awo twatula ulire muganda wa nawe wokeza.
Okay.
Kakati abantu abatamanyi trend ya Museveni. Museveni does not panic in elections. if you expect Museveni to panic in elections tomumanyi
naye kano akacontainiza
Ssaabasajja Kabaka yakwata ekisumuluzo kya Besigye n'agenda Ejjende mu katale ke wa Kiseka bwakitunulako bwakizeena bwakitaluddawa. What did Museveni do? Museveni summoned the parliament to enact a law to protect our traditional leaders at the peak of an election. Abantu bonna mukama watu si mukama wakozeeki nabaga no, we don't have this law. Tuyinza okufuna ekizibu ku bakulembeze baffe. Let us protect. Era sekandi omusajja w'amaanyi sekandi came back, convened the parliament, neyise teekera ndi Queen yalina etteeka erimufuga. It was an omission to bond traditional leaders in kyafuliwa. Mukula who was shouting himself hoarse to Museveni amuwalana kubanga ayagala kwesimbawo. When Mukula had problems ne bamusiba mu kkomera, who helped Museveni and how? Mukula yali takimanyi, oli yamukubira essimu n'amugamba nti first lady's office, not first lady, bali balina first lady yalina charity ye nga bagiyita batya
charity ya first lady Angela
ne bakubira Mukula essimu. Mukula bamugambye wajja okudiringanga ne office ya first lady fe tumutya bamulimba. Kakati Mukula kozi ye bamutezi musajja omuntu yakuba essimu mu State House n'agamba nti twagalayo miliyoni 2.4 first lady's charity eyagalayo miliyoni 2.4 okulwanyisa gundi siriimu. Mukula abagenda zitwala essimu nevuga bali basyalinga office n'omuntu naye was from State House, can you get this man? Namumubulira namugamba you want me in State House? Yes. Now kyava mugamba nti sente ziri ze babadde baagala mu State House nze kanzitwale ndaba gyendaga. Mukula never bothered to ask whether the money reached the facility good. Nemusanga boosting. I had put Mukula to see the president. Nemugamba Mukula. The MP for Ruhama should go to the doco first. Against the president ampayiriza. Mirundi afuma Kayanyi. Nze nabagamba president Museveni tawagira Rushiaka. Therefore, Wakayanga mukwano kwa Museveni ubani. Ngabo balowooza Kayanja aranga mi at midnight. Nemuga sijja kuyamba. Since aganti president yakuwagira. Museveni tawagira Rushiaka. Uganda tell anybody but not me. He was a tough man. Kagati Mukula bamu alowooza nti first lady yatwala sente tezatuuka miliyoni 5 kati Mukula bamukwata bamuteeka mu kkomera bamwite kati gundi eyo temukyajjogera
zizo sente zamukwata za malaria
yakola operation n'alumba bamukula abo bamukwezi nayiwa ne banoonya Mukula Meja Jeno Mukwezi ne bamunoonya mu Sugar Bawulo emifaliso gyonna Mukamuwezi n'agamba if you were a tough man why don't you go and fight? Kayigulanga mukama we yamulagidde ayya Kayigula was a committed man.
Everyone talks about that.
I don't know how he blundered.
So does Museveni give a second chance?
Nti Museveni yeche yakola kyali eki yakwata sente naziwa baloya abatali beenaale mpanga bajjeri bamugamba abeeyo nga bagamba namugamba ndi Mukula ali mukomera tumuyambite chairman w'enaale. Mukula was saved by Mpanga because if Mukula had appealed the judgment would have been maintained because when you appeal you don't bring fresh evidence but a review Mukula applied for review Mpanga yali mugezi ne office ya first lady nefulumya tisente feze twafuna even in denominations wetano bwali bwebuti nga Mukula teyali
ngati yawayo
Mukula was saved through court. Museveni gundi
sente zogera kuzizali za malaria zetuulira.
Yes kujja wange biri mu maaso yafuna kwalo ne wakapabolo Museveni ne bidandisa. The president as usual was taking a slow move on whether we go to multi-party or not. Kakati ba wakapabolo ne bagamba this man can retire. Let us form a political party. Ne bakola amagezi ne basaba sente tiza mobilization biri maaso naziwamba. Kati biri maaso waziwamba koza inaka populanga wakababulo awandisi when you get that money buy a car for my wife biri maaso yali bwambega nakatereka. Kakati wene biri mu maaso was sold to Akit. Sente nebekatanika koza mutale. Era bili maso was seen ngava mu helicopter agende kasese for mobilization. The money bali wandika mobilization bawakapoli bali bagala standika ekibiina. Kakati singi president bili maso abawabi ne bamu blocking. Kakati bili maso ne bamukwata. Instead of dragging him to the party disciplinary committee bamutwala mu court. Bili maso ne bamu kibonezo kya myaka eki. A good mobilize kitajja kuddamu kwesembawo moral turpitude. But how did Museveni save him? He pardoned him from serving a sentence. In the process, a president can help you, can pardon you not to serve a sentence. But Museveni does not interfere in the process.
Kachogamba
nekayigula banabeki solo gundi bwe yagenda yo ani Bobby Wine te Museveni musabichi kayigula ye yali alowooza Museveni does not get votes through proxies. Museveni does not believe in 12 kingpins. Museveni can go to Busoga and get votes without Okadaga. Museveni can come
Ebyadala byolimu kyakoli mu 1996.
Museveni can go to and get Buganda
tuli mu 2001
mu kinana betwaka mu 96 Buganda declared nti semogere esolo kande tetwaba butula nitukaddamu mulikanaga nti ono gwetulonze besi natwala na jolo ne makazi ngaga nti kabaka tasala mviri
ku mulembe guno President Museveni akyalina amaanyi okugenda ekana kuba campaign nga tekuliko
ate kati eno mmengo nfunyo kano ke kalwa akasinga okubeera fair akalu ka Uganda omutalitse amakuti abagakwese mbuli wali sente wonna webabbira sente eza covid ezenzige zijje ziyambe mu kalwo n'amanyiwo waliwo omukyala nnaku eziyadde afulumiza amakutiya abaana ne bamukwata tete yabategedde onabeba nini mubikuta byante sumulula nga ekutiya nnya abaana nabo bakamaliddawo bali gaggawala
Tamale statement jokoze that I don't believe in it. President Museveni
get to sort of votes without even if Kayihura is in prison.
Ati lwaki abantu bamusabyeko Kayihura after Bobi Wine okuba bikula amaaso lwaki bamusabye Kayihura
Museveni kyakukola kati guti otumulaba siye wakoti maaso guti tasibwanga konera kala. So if you presented over court martial, because Museveni has not resorted to monkey tricks, if you were a soldier, he takes you to the court martial. Kayihura is before court martial is senior army officer. Kayihura koze emirimu emeka. Tumukunde ye Museveni akubuulira nti when is the case against the military takuyamba fight yowawo in fact civilian ataba mwangu nnyo nti civilian amutwala mu civilian court era olwalaba bwalaba omujasi bagadde omuyamba ngaliwo omujasi bwebaga bamanipulate nga ne bamutwala mu civilian court bamuvunaana mumadi. When it comes to the military council you are finished. The court martial
kati ekyatwalibwa Justin Juko Mugundi military court
anti kakati bo bagenda ne bakola ensobi era nakiwakanya the failure to handle issues. If you find a fake priest conman yanyaga abantu nga yambala ebyabafaasi omutwala lubaga for discipline. If you see a conman using, because the army says anybody found using any item where we have a monopoly, you have recruited yourself into the army. No, you are diluting the prestige of the army. Toyinza kudya civilian mubbi wankoko n'omutwala mu court martial. Look what the American court martial. Not every lawyer can go to a court martial. American court martial is for celebrated lawyers to preserve the terrorists babatutte mu court martial y'omu America. Bush had to create prisons in Eastern Europe ng'amanyi nti amateeka ge gali soft until Twin Tower n'ateekawo inland intelligence okumonitoringira wali ne tough rules America ne bakkiriza babajjeko eddembe lyabwe. Kakati Wembley yali illegal. Later yasolvinga musango. A Philippine, this man has created a Wembley which is illegal. Bw'otta omuyaga n'otta omubbi ogenda ne ku ofisi ya RDC ne bakuwa ssente ez'okutta n'ez'okuziika. Why? This man took a lot to parliament, insulated them against future prostitution.
So what do you think is going to happen to General Kaihura?
He'll finish his
tunamulaba nga akomyewo mu service.
But to say nti Museveni can be black and married, how many votes are in Kisoro? And what's the future precedent? If everybody who comes to Mbagamba, nti betuteekawo president, nti Bobi Wine etakwata wawe another person because he is popular. Will you deal with the pastors?
Apana.
Abayiwa abantu, Serwadda ayiwa abantu ku Namboole. Nze nina program ewa Serwadda. Kiyinza obatwalira emyezi 6 nga basumulula amabaasa abantu bebajja babasabire. Half a year. Kakati ayiwa abantu mu kibuga. Ensi nejjula. Abantu emyezi mukyovula bazimbagamba. Titutunuliranga ekintu n'ogamba. Nzinza mu stupid akkiriza mu wikikulafu. Siri stupid am highly intelligent. I've evaluated nti binkolera. Instead of using an expensive lawyer what n'abaana, I use very little and if people fear me. Kakati gwe tolowooza nti bajja Kayihura bajja muta bajja kubeera soft during election. You are creating a very dangerous precedent. In American history, waliwo omusajja muyita General MacArthur. General MacArthur bamukuba Philippines n'addaga we shall return. Yaleeta olutalo lwa Korea. General MacArthur yalagira bakuba ng'olutalo alwagala. Ekyasavinga America, they had developed Gonde paratroopers who fight behind the enemy lines. But China was pumping millions of soldiers on a daily basis. So in 1954, an armistice was made. And yet a question arose, should we charge MacArthur? Yes, the then president of the United States said the buck stops at me. If we don't charge MacArthur, we shall have created a very dangerous president for American armed forces.
Akade nakono katutwaliriza nga nsibira tutuuse wenyini wetulina okubanga tuviira mu ssaawa zino.
Ennyondo yange gye ntambula nayo tekubabaate. Museveni bamugamba nti omusajja ayina ennyondo ayina asidi. Nze Kayihura yampa permission okutambula n'asidi.
Ennyondo tekuziteweerera.
Naye yabaga nti gwe mumuleke agibattuleko omuntu omu nja mupanishinga n'okusinga kitatta.
Nze Tamale ene mwebale nnyo ddala okubeera naffe era mwebale kutambula ddala nga bwe twatandise programu. Ensonga nnyingi nnyo ze tuba tulina okuba nga twogerako naye ng'obwakadde tetusobodde kuba nga tuzimaliriza. Muzei Tamale,
the non-criminals fear the heavy dismemberment of soldiers.
Ekyo tuba tulina okwogerako naye akadde mulekatukkiriza tulina okuba nga tuva wano eno Muzei Tamale. Atayina musango tatya musirikale. So bannayuganda balina okubeera okay with the deployment eri mu kibuga. Wakati wange tukimanyi nti ekibuga kiri partition kyabakikubyemu ebibanja. Mulimu ekya Meja Muhanga, mulimu ekya Muhoozi, mulimu ne Meja General Paul Okech. So kati tulabe okulonda bwe kunaabeera 2014 January ennaku ziri 8 zokka ezibulayo.
Instead of using foreigners like in the Central African Republic, let us have our own people to provide security. These are the products of the revolution.
Wow. Tugenda kubanga tusukkawo mubadde balayi balungi. Amanya nze Simon Chris Makanga naye nga tulina programs endala eziddako kuddako sports updates. Johnny ne Marjorie weebali olwedde okubanga bagenda kukuwa ebyo ebigenda okuva mu kisika ebyemizannyo. Producer nge Husna Affe twebale kubanga tutambudde ffenna. Jeff webale kubeera mu byuma. Don the drone mubadde ku kamera. Mubeere bulungi paka olwokubiri oluddako mweraba.
Yabaga nti muleka
ebirowoozo by'owulidde mu pulogulaamu eno si bya STV, abakozi baayo oba n'abagiddukanya, wabula bya muntu ssekinnoomu. STV erungamizibwa ekitongole kya Uganda Communications Commission.
We are hiring. The station seeks to recruit competent and trustworthy sales executive. to grow advertising sales volume and reach its business targets. Key responsibilities include discovering and pursuing new sales prospects, negotiating deals through maintaining customer satisfaction, growth of TV portfolio, good proposal writing skills, impeccable integrity, and passion for the station. Qualifications: bachelor degree or diploma in business-related course. If you meet the requirements, please submit your application, detailed CV, and academic documents at Sky Complex located along Buziga Road. Note: only shortlisted candidates will be contacted.